Why hello there, I'm not used to doing videos in this style, but I thought I would give it a try. Give me some feedback if you enjoyed it please, and thank you. Now on to more pressing matters, let's talk about Subnautica. So I started my session by gearing up and going off to find the moonpool fragments that I desperately wanted. From personal experience, I almost always find something good down in the sparse reef, so I decided to check there first. Though I did get distracted by some tempted altair boxes on the ground, so I ended up checking that out for a bit, which leads to nothing really important of value. I ended up taking a wrong turn and ended up close to the Grand Reef side of things, but after busting up a few rocks and getting a few additional minerals, I decided to move on to the first location. We're going to the Sparse Reef. Upon descending into the darkness, I was genuinely a bit unnerved. I was also on the peak of my high though, which would literally haunt me in a few minutes. I knifed the green glob a few times for good luck, head over and met with a data chip, what looks like one of the reactor fragments, and a pair of torpedo launchers for our favorite prawn suit. Not bad find honestly, but could have been better. I started to look around a bit more, but the ambience got to me. In a high stupor, I retreated back to relative safety of the surface biomes. While on the way back, I ended up slipping down into a crevice in the terrain. I cracked open a few additional resources before I attempted to navigate my way back to base, in which I have a hard time. Now onto my second location, the Aurora. I made the radiation suit off camera a bit ago. The resources were extremely easy to get, just taking lead and some fiber from Creep Vine, and I already had quite a few of them left in storage, so I just made it off camera. Departing quickly in my Seamoth, I glided over the mushroom forest, which we will explore a bit later, and entered the dusty and sandy crash zone biome. I brought over some minimal supplies, including a bit of food and water, though this will be unneeded once we enter the Aurora proper due to the massive amounts of supply stock they usually have in the crates. I also brought with me some materials enough to create a small power-based fabricator and a few storage lockers. This will come in handy a lot later down the line, just not right now. So of course I get distracted, like usual, looking around the area for loot. I end up looting a bunch of small altair crates, grab a bunch of scrap metal and try and grab copper while being chased around by the stalkers and the sharks. The sun ends up setting and I end up retreating back to the base I had previously constructed to wait out the night in relative peace, only that peace was a reaper roaring every like 3 fucking minutes. So I have to deal with that until the sun comes up. But my high was starting to wean a bit, so you know, I was starting to get my brain back, so. After day breaks once more, I get to gather my courage and get ready to enter the Aurora for the first time in a while. My goal is to obviously fix the drive core, but to also obtain a few key pieces of loot as well on the way in. Avoiding the Reaper, poorly guarding the border between the crash zone and the bulb zone, I gradually snuck between a gap in the ship's hull and snuck into the frontal portion of the Aurora, where I failed to find any of the ransoming upwards for quite a bit of time, until finally I get lucky enough and notice one. Stepping onto the ramp, I end up having to dodge a small group of cave crawlers, a few which end up taking up small chunks from my leg and my ass. Though a small difficulty and numerous distractions lying in wait, packaged in crates mind you, I finally reached the entrance to the Aurora, where I grab a fire extinguisher, luckily falling to the ground close by and clear the fire away from the entrance. Upon entering, I take an immediate right and attempt to put out the fire engulfing the entrance to the administrator's office. Luck was on my side this time, however, as my extinguisher runs out of foam a bit too early and I'm forced to leap through the fire to attain what I want, which happens to be the poster on the wall. Today the journal being a secondary objective in my eyes. Upon completing my looting, I end up leaping back through the blazes, and upon expertly parkouring over the boxes blocking the way forward, I end up finding a few additional crates that litter around the hold with some additional food, water, and batteries inside. Continuing onwards, I open up the door to the Seamoth Bay. This is where I end up obtaining a free Tier 1 depth module for the Seamoth, which is basically the reason I came there, apart from the core drive, or the drive core. Leaving the room and proceeding down the hallways, I walk down and check the door to the front suit bay, which unfortunately is jam shut and needs a laser cut open, which I do not have at this time. So I continue onwards towards the drive core room. Big mistake on my part, to be fair, but it is what it is. After walking across the pipe, narrowly missing the fire on the left, I finally make it to the drive core room of the Aurora, where I obtain a Cyclops efficiency module fixed in the stand as if waiting for me to steal it. I did start by fixing the core of the Aurora with my welder, and after a few minutes of welding and getting bit by the biters every like 3 minutes, the drive core is fixed and the radiation dispersed after a few days. With nothing else to do at the moment here, I follow the hallway back out, doing a better parkour over the crates blocking the way again, leave the Aurora. I try to find a safe place back to my sea moth, but end up falling off instead. Aboard the gem hunter, which is what I called my sea moth, and depart off to the second location. This should be third actually, only to get distracted once more on the way. Upon scaling the cliff's edge downwards to the mushroom forest nearby, I find a fragment of the Cyclops engine for ripe scanning, and after looking around the mid-air for more fragments or loot, that I depart once more after finding pretty much nothing of value. Looking forward, I spot the bulb zone, and without much thought and, which honestly pea-brain, I decide to give it a visit. Upon reaching the bulb zone, I spot a wreck nearby where I find another data chip waiting outside to be taken. Briefly scanning around the wreck with my eyes while in my sub, I find nothing more of value and decide to leave back the way I originally came. And coming back to the mushroom forest, I attempt to explore the caves below the tree. In the end, I decide to move the gem hunter as close to the entrance as possible and blitz my way downwards, where I would snatch up a lovely cuttlefish egg early, and on the way out I end up getting a few more fragments of various things, mostly sea moth, or mostly Cyclops related. On the return trip back from the Aurora, I end up cutting through a kelp forest, and this is where I end up stumbling across Life Pod 3 by complete accident, mind you, and after getting a bit more additional loot and another data chip I believe, I depart for real this time back to the main base. Having obtained my Tier 1 Death module for free from the Aurora, I'm more than happy now to explore a slightly deeper territory such as the Jelly Shroom Caves, my main goal being able to find the broken down Legacy base rusting below, though obviously I get distracted for a while, sneaking close to the seabed and underneath the glowing fungal habitat the crab snakes reside in. I end up finding a decent amount of lithium and magnetite off the ground. To get my head back on straight and reach it a bit further down, I found the destroyed Legacy base. Looking forward, I found a number of message logs as well as obtained multiple types of room blueprints, including the multi-purpose room. Another important thing to note, I found the first half of the stasis rifle fragments needed. So I tell myself it's a great haul, actually, and depart back to the surface biomes and back to my main base once more. I end up adding to the base with a few additional rooms and hallways to be used at a later time. After relaxing a bit from expanding my main base, I decided to head back out sooner rather than later. This time I would push out to explore the surface level of the underwater islands, and my main goal is to explore the wreck housed there. Upon reaching the underwater islands, I spotted the large wreck, where I would find a few additional fragments from scanning around the outskirts. Most importantly though, I would also get lucky and find the second half of the stasis rifle fragments needed, unlocking the stasis rifle for further crafting. Upon entering the wreck, I would find two types of small pots, which I scanned for the blueprint of course. Going a bit further inwards, I obtained the last fragment for the power cell charger, which I don't really use. Personally, I prefer to stack moon pools at my bases instead, but it's something at least. To get in the deeper portion though, I have to pull out my laser cutter, crafted earlier from some of the diamonds that we got from the previous expeditions. There I will find another jam door, which I proceed to just cut open right away and steal the data chip lurking behind it. Coming back into the previous room, I also obtained the data log before I retreat back to the gem hunter for some additional oxygen. Coming back, I return to find an additional data chip I overlooked in the darkness and either a repulsion or propulsion cannon fragment nearby, either which I can't remember which one it was, to be honest. After both me and the gem hunter start taking damage from the nearby bone sharks, I retrieved to one of the other islands to repair my submarine, where I was also harassed by additional bone sharks after circling the island and cracking open a whole bunch of rocks for the minerals. Big mistake on my part, to be honest. There I decided it's probably best to head up before I get too in over my head, and I proceed to retreat in the wrong direction, mind you, where I was stuck by a warper while trying to repair my sea moth once more. Upon returning back to my home base, I'm greeted with a message from the radio I previously installed next to the entranceway.
This is Life Pod 6. I have a passenger on board. Coordinates attached. We've landed a kilometer from the crash site, but there's radiation in between us and the rendezvous. Request immediate assistance. 6 out.
Signal coordinates corrupted. Approximate transmission origin recorded to data bank.
I throw together some of the materials I gained and went out off camera to grab some creepvine samples so I could craft the reinforced dive suit. If you enjoyed this video, please leave feedback in the comments. I appreciate each person who views my videos, and a comment is very appreciated as well. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Please, if you like this type of video with a commentary, even if it's poor on my part, please leave a comment. Thank you.